Don't worry about the hat, I love this thing. Also, a bald dude has to keep his head warm. Hey everybody, Jarek here. I get a lot of requests on this channel for a lot of different games, and as long as that request is a first-person shooter that looks interesting to me, I'll probably cover it. But I even use my sub goal on Twitch. If I reach that sub goal, I generally cover a game that I might not have covered it before. Shameless Twitch plug right here, I stream a lot and it's really fun to hang out with you guys, so go give a follow if you want to hang out. But yes, I get a lot of requests to cover a lot of different games, but I always have to be cautious of the old ones. After all, if a game came out in 2004, that person might have only been 8 years old, so of course to them it was the hottest shit ever, when in all reality it was just shit. But I can't say anything bad about it, or it'll spark nostalgic rage from that person, despite the fact that they probably haven't played it in close to 20 years. And that's where we are today. I got a lot of requests to play Men of Valor. It came out in 2004, but for the most part, most of the people I talk to have no idea what it is. It seems to have a cult following. So let's see if this game is hot shit or just shit. Men of Valor is a first-person shooter developed by 2015 Games. It was released for both Microsoft Windows and the original Xbox. It runs on Unreal Engine 2, and as you can see, it's a game based on the Vietnam War. Now, before this game was recommended to me, I had never heard of it. There's a few reasons that could be. The first one is that it could just be a bad game, so it didn't get recognition, and the second one is that it came out in 2004, which was a ridiculously stacked year. I mean, this is a year where your backlog of games could be Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Doom 3, the original Far Cry. You had a lot of better games to play than this game, even if this game maybe ended up being a good game. I put 2004 as my second best year of all time, only followed by 1998, so it's kind of an unfortunate year to release your game in. Apparently, it's not just me. The Wikipedia page has the bare bones minimum. There's no information here, and a lot of the stuff still needs additional citations to be verified, dating back to 2009 and 2010 respectively. So yeah, this game relatively fell under the radar. A lot of that isn't the game's fault, but a lot of it is the game's fault. I have a lot of negative to say about this game, but I also have a lot of positive, so let's get all the positive out of the way first. The cutscenes seem to be something out of a History Channel documentary, and for once this is actually genuinely interesting. This documentary shows real footage of the Vietnam War, talks about a real operation that happened in the Vietnam War, and then you play that operation. In concept, this is awesome. When you go in-game, you play as someone by the name of Dean Shepard. Dean Shepard is a Marine from the 3rd Battalion of the 3rd Marine Division. This game does not shy away from accurate time period issues. In fact, if this game came out today, it would be banned in most countries. You will hear offensive language, you will hear racist issues, and you probably will see imagery that you won't like. But it's the Vietnam War. I've never understood when there's a game about a war and then they censor it to all hell or they just ban it outright. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's the Vietnam War. What do you expect? It's sort of like how developers won't use swastikas in World War II games or the games will get banned. Which still blows my mind. It's World War II, no shit there's swastikas. Anyway, back on point, the general vibe of this game is unmistakably the era of the Vietnam War. This is a good thing. You will see napalm strikes and you will see your men burning down buildings, followed by news reports misreporting what's actually going on. Neither side are in the right, but they take the extreme examples. Just to be clear, this game is not 100% accurate to the Vietnam War. I don't think anything really can be as far as media is concerned, but it does a pretty good job. The most important thing this game nailed is that everything they did feels accurate to that time period. The music sounds like something that would come out of that era. The way the characters are written and speak sound like something out of that era. And even within gameplay, the weapons used are time period accurate, which is great. The way the guns sound isn't the best, but they could also be much worse, and the recoil for the weapons does feel pretty nice. It has the old-fashioned just shake your screen up violently, and I honestly miss this. This feels better to me than what most new games do. Unfortunately, all my positivity ends here. Everything else involving the guns feels awful, and this game has a lot of problems. Before I continue on to the bad, I would like to say that apparently 72% of the people that watch my videos haven't subscribed to this channel, and only 13% click the bell. So if you're liking the video so far, consider subscribing and clicking that bell so I'm not submitted to YouTube's random, strange algorithm that you can't predict. It would help me out a lot, and I really like making this content for you guys. It also lets me rant even more than usual, commence the rant about this game being bad. Thankfully, even though this game came out in 2004, it's still easy to get. You can buy it for relatively cheap on Steam, and it has gotten a patch to run up to 1920 by 1080. But if you have a resolution bigger than that, you're going to have to do a workaround. I'm running on 2560 by 1440, so the 1920 by 1080 option obviously isn't going to work for me. The workaround at first seems easy, you just edit something in an INI file, but in all reality you're having to bind it to a key, so you need to press that key to make the game run in the resolution that you want. This makes it seem like it wouldn't be a problem. You launch the game, you press that key, and then you forget about it. If it were so easy. Unfortunately, this doesn't work in menus. The result is that you can only do this once you've loaded into a game. And every time you pause the game, every time you die, every time there's a cutscene, it reverts to the original resolution. This is especially annoying if you have two screens and you need something on your second screen, because every time something like that happens, your windows get thrown everywhere and then you need to alt-tab to fix it again. Now I know, it's an old game. I'm not actually holding anything against the game for not running at a resolution that wasn't really a thing back then. I'm more or less just venting here because this is really irritating, especially since it does it every time you die, adding insult to injury. Other than that, this game runs perfectly fine and is surprisingly still a decent PC port for 2004. Your only other option to play this game is to buy it on the original Xbox, which really wasn't very good. Certain levels entirely broke on the original Xbox version, and it wasn't rare to have your game running at only 18 frames per second. So even if you're someone that really likes retro stuff, I would recommend playing it on the PC version, not the original Xbox version. Graphically, this game is hard to judge. It came out in 2004, so it's not really fair to compare it to the juggernauts that were Far Cry 1, Half-Life 2, and Doom 3. But that said, it still looks under par for 2004. Some things look okay, the weapon models and animations are perfectly fine, the jungle elements themselves look fine, but most other things look awful, especially anything in movement. Aside from the weapon reloading animations were not this game's strong suit. It's not rare for objects to clip into each other or for bodies to entirely break during certain animations. The game is a jank fest while it's running, and it can really break immersion. It doesn't help that you're going to start seeing some major problems with this game despite how much the game tries to hide them. For example, this is an extremely linear game. It looks like a jungle when you first start playing it, but then you quickly realize that the tree line is literally just a wall you can't walk through, and then you notice it everywhere. This is important, keep that in mind, I will be talking about it later. First, let's talk about the gunplay. As I mentioned, the recoil actually feels pretty good, and the gun sounds are okay, but everything else is awful. Hipfire is horribly inaccurate, so you're going to want to aim. If you're aiming, you can't walk. Instead, you lean when you press the movement keys while aiming. Some other games have done this, and I've never liked it. I like being able to move while aiming, but, whatever, it works. The bigger thing is that if you don't shoot while aiming, the crosshair will slowly get smaller and your first shot will be more accurate. It immediately undoes itself when you shoot because now it's going to be inaccurate again. It's almost like Bloom and Halo Reach except for in reverse. This is an interesting idea, and in another game, this might have been a great mechanic. But in this game, it sucks because the rest of the game makes it feel terrible. In a lot of ways, the AI reminds me of the Red Orchestra 2 bots, where sometimes they'll be completely idiotic, running back and forth doing nothing, and then other times they'll be godlike and they can't miss, sniping you across the entire map. This was excusable in Red Orchestra 2 because, well, it was a multiplayer game. The bots were just there in case other people didn't happen to be there. That's not excusable in a single-player game like Men of Valor. It makes the game either way too easy or bullshit hard. Next, let's talk about the health system. You might notice in the bottom left, there's this icon, and that's your health bar. The more it gets filled up with red, the more hurt you are. But there's an extra mechanic. When you get shot, a part of it fills up with red. You can hold down a bandage button and it'll refill up to a little part, meaning you only lost a little bit of your health if you bandaged it up correctly. This makes it sound like the health system would be more forgivable, but it's not. You still only die in 1 or 2 shots. On top of that, bandaging works best while you're standing still, not moving. It can work while you're moving, but it doesn't work well at all, so it's highly encouraged for you to not move. While you're bandaging, you can shoot, but only from the hip. You can't aim, and that's almost pointless. In practicality, what this health system means is that you walk 10 feet, get shot, stop, hold the button down to bandage, walk 10 feet, get shot, hold the button down to bandage, randomly die. Having to mash the F key on my keyboard every 5 seconds is really annoying and not enjoyable. It did not at all make the game more forgiving. So you have an annoying health system, you don't have much health because the enemies will kill you in 1 to 2 shots, you have enemies that are either dumb or complete aimbots able to kill you instantly, and to top it all off, they can spawn anywhere. Now, in concept, this can be done extremely well. It's Vietnam, it's guerrilla warfare, this is what it should be, right? Like, that seems reasonable, but the game managed to fuck this up. Remember when I said the tree line is just a wall texture? Yeah, well, these enemies can spawn anywhere. If it was an actual forest and I could also walk throughout that forest, this wouldn't be a problem. Enemies could be anywhere and I'm in a forest, but instead I'm in a hallway where enemies can walk through the walls at me and they won't stop spawning. To make things even worse, it has the Far Cry 1 problem where there's shrubbery everywhere, but this gives you absolutely no cover. You can't see the enemy because there's grass and trees all over the place, but they can shoot you perfectly fine. This really is a hallway with no cover with aimbot enemies that have no clip. And if they want to make it even worse, they'll try to add in a realistic scenario of your friendly shelling an area that they won't stop, and the shelling is completely random so you don't know where it's going to land, so you're being shot at and being shelled, and you need to take over a turret off in the distance by running straight at it. Now you see why I say fuck this game. Like, I understand what they're going for. They're going for a realistic Vietnam War experience, but they did it in the worst possible way. You can have a realistic game feel completely miserable but still be enjoyable. Instead, this game just felt incredibly tedious, way too difficult, and not fun. All these frustrations are piled on top of the fact that the gameplay loop is the same repetitive gameplay loop over and over again. Here's the objectives you're given. Clear out a village. This means go shoot everyone in the village, then walk through all the buildings just to make sure no one's in there, and it will check off each building you walk through. Destroy and take over a turret, then defend said bunker for some random amount of time. This is again easier said than done since you're walking at a turret through a hallway. Walk up to 3 or 4 different things, hold E long enough to put a satchel charge on them, and then walk away and let them blow up. And forcibly remove someone in the Viet Cong, take them back to your base, or rescue one of your friendlies by taking them back to your base. You will be doing these same objectives over and over again. So not only do you have a very frustrating game that is way harder than it should be, but you also have a very boring and repetitive combat loop. I did say some praise about the atmosphere and story, right? So at least that has to save the game in some way, right? I don't know. I streamed the game for about 3 hours, I looked up a long play, saw that I was only around 40% of the way through the game, and said, fuck this, I'm done, I'm not playing the rest of that. I did skim through the long play to confirm everything I had said. You are doing the same combat loop over and over again. It doesn't get any better. It's the same frustrating bullshit from the first 3 hours stretched to about 8. I saw everything I needed to see and it's not worth playing the rest of the game. This game is pretty cheap on Steam, but don't buy it. It's on sale, don't buy it. It's not worth paying for. What's really confusing is that when this game first came out, it got somewhere between a 6 to an 8 by most reviewers. The user score on Metacritic is much lower than that, but still, those reviewers thought it deserved a 6 to an 8. My logic behind this is that we were coming to that point where everyone was sick of World War II shooters, so when they saw something that wasn't a World War II shooter, they automatically liked it. To me, this doesn't make sense, because I realized it's not World War II that was the problem was that every game felt the same. And this game feels the same as those World War II shooters, but a lot worse and set in Vietnam. I'm sorry, the atmosphere is great, but that alone cannot carry a game. The gameplay needs to be good. So to answer the question I left at the beginning of this video, it's shit. It's not hot shit, it's just shit. That about sums up how I feel about Men of Valor. Thanks to all of you guys that joined me over on my stream and watched me suffering on Twitch. If you want to come follow, my Twitch is twitch.tv/Jared4GamingDragon. If you subscribe on Twitch, you will add to my sub goal, which may make me stream a game you want to see me play earlier than I usually do, and you'll get to see my videos one day ahead of time. Same thing goes for my patrons over on patreon.com/Jared4. Thanks all of you guys for watching this video. Click around on the screen to watch some of my other stuff, maybe subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next video.